Today, we're going back to a decade that didn't just sit on the edge of a new millennium but teetered on the brink of its own darkness, the 1990s. The 90s were wild, a time of transformation, power, and unpredictability. Crime was climbing. Cities like Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York became notorious for their murder rates, while high-profile cases and haunting new methods of violence filled the nightly news. Movies and music reflected these struggles, turning stories of gritty street life, dangerous personalities, and tragic losses into a haunting backdrop to modern life. And finally, we'll reveal the one tool of murder that didn't just change the 90s but reshaped crime as we know it. But as we start our journey, remember, each method has its own story, its own unique psychology. Some murderers sought stealth, while others craved spectacle. Some killed out of desperation, others out of premeditated malice. And what's more, where you were in the world changed everything. Different cultures, different laws, different weapons. The way people killed spoke volumes about the society they lived in. So sit back, but don't get too comfortable. Because the story of murder in the 90s is about to begin.
La la. La 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 la.
Poisoning, a method as old as humanity itself. It's quiet, subtle, and deadly. And for those who choose it, it's often not a crime of passion or rage, but a crime of calculation. Poisoners are a different breed of killer. They don't need to overpower their victims or confront them face to face. Instead, they let the poison do their work, often watching as their victims slowly succumb, piece by piece. In the 1990s, poisoning wasn't a common method of murder. It made up only a fraction of homicides. But when poison was used, it almost always came with a plot, a story, an elaborate plan. And in countries like the United Kingdom, Russia, and Japan, we saw some of the most chilling poisoning cases of the decade. Let me take you to Lincolnshire, England. It's a quiet place, the kind of town where people know each other by name. And in the early 90s, one name everyone trusted was Beverly Alit. A nurse, a caregiver. They called her dedicated. But no one knew that she was hiding a horrifying secret. Beverly wasn't a healer, she was a murderer. Over just 2 months in 1991, 4 children under her care died mysteriously, and 9 others suffered life-threatening episodes. The weapon? Insulin and potassium injections. Her victims included Liam Taylor, a 7-week-old baby, and Timothy Hardwick, an 11-year-old with cerebral palsy. Beverly thrived on the chaos she created, playing the hero as doctors scrambled to save lives she had already decided to end. Her motive? Psychologists later diagnosed her with Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a compulsion to cause harm for attention and sympathy. But make no mistake, this wasn't a mental illness out of her control. Beverly knew exactly what she was doing. Then there's Russia, where poison has long held a dark place in the country's criminal history. With political tensions high and organized crime rampant, poison was sometimes used for more than just personal disputes. It was, allegedly, a favored tool of assassination. In the early 90s, several mysterious deaths were linked to poisoning, with whispers of political motives behind them. One case, a businessman found dead in his hotel room, led to quiet suspicions that the Russian mafia had struck again, using a lethal cocktail to silence him. His cause of death was eventually ruled as poisoning, although, to this day, some believe the poison came from government operatives with hidden agendas. Russia's poisoning cases in the 90s blurred the line between crime and conspiracy, leaving many wondering how far some would go to settle scores. And in Japan, where gun violence was scarce due to strict laws, some turned to poison to settle personal grievances. In Tokyo, a case made headlines when a man poisoned his boss's drink at a company party, allegedly to get back at him for years of mistreatment. The poison took effect slowly, causing confusion and panic as his boss collapsed in front of shocked coworkers. This case rattled the public, sparking debates over workplace culture and mental health in Japan. Why would someone choose poison? In the 90s, most murders were fast, impulsive. But poison is slow, deliberate. It's used by those who want to control the death, to watch from a distance, or to cover their tracks so no one suspects them. Poison allows for premeditation, a plan, a way out if things go wrong. Statistically, poisoning remained rare in the 90s, making up only about 1 to 2% of total murders in the US. But it carried a distinct psychological profile. Poisoners, unlike other killers, often had personal motives. They knew their victims, sometimes loved them, or at least had loved them once. And they took time to plan each step. Poisoning required patience, calmness, and a readiness to wait as the poison took its course. In the 90s, poisoners were outliers, calculating killers with a different method and mindset. They were often driven by love, hate, or revenge. But despite its drama, poisoning remained a method reserved for the few. In the vast landscape of murder in the 90s, poison was just the start, a quiet killer, waiting in the shadows, while the world grew increasingly violent around it. Next, we'll dive into another method, one that requires the killer to come up close and personal. A method of intimacy and brutality all rolled into one.